The Spooktacular Stroll, CNY's not-so-scary Halloween experience for the family, is back. Walk through the half-mile trail in the Bewitched Woods at Long Branch Park in Liverpool every Thursday through Sunday in October from 5 to 9 p.m. Pack the car full of your little goblins. Admission is by the carload. Upstate Golisano Children's Hospital's Spooktacular Stroll is presented by Upstate Honda Dealers. Get your pre-sale tickets today at spooktacularstroll.com.
Campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
What's poppin', everyone? Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon. Dylan Byer, Max Gifford, and, well, looks like our other co-host missed the memo.
Yeah, I guess he's still in the bye week.
The bye week's done. Nico Horning not with us over in California, spending some time with his family. He was golfing yesterday, so hopefully he's having a good time out on the West Coast.
The weather's nice enough to golf here today, too,
which
is surprising.
Well, of course, the week that Nico's gone, you still have to bring up the weather.
Of course I do.
It's a second alert weather here on ESPN Radio Syracuse, but Dylan and Max with you, excited to be with you from 2 to 3. Dylan, we've got an exciting show, talking some Syracuse football, playing possibly their biggest game of the season in a couple days against Pitt. We're going to talk some NFL. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball, World Series coming up this Friday, and then we'll wrap it up with some NHL, the Frozen Frenzy, and the NBA back in action tonight. So
yes.
Lots of sports. But we start here on the hill. I guess it's off the hill. They're going to the Steel City this week. Syracuse football playing number 19 Pittsburgh this week. I know there's been lots of thoughts circulating the last couple of weeks, considering Syracuse is 5-1, and they have a chance, if they win this game, to be ranked, at least in my opinion.
100%. Easily
sneak into the rankings if they win this. Currently number 27 in the nation. So a win over the Panthers would likely give them a win. I'm gauging some first thoughts on sort of this matchup.
This is definitely the game of the year for Syracuse because you're 5-1. If you're looking at the playoffs, which if you're a Syracuse football player, you are. Everyone has playoffs in mind because you can lose a couple games now. This is a must-win game for Syracuse because of that loss to Stanford. I think a lot of us are very nervous about this game because Pitt is undefeated. It's home. It's a Thursday night, 7:30 game, which is unusual for college football. But luckily, Syracuse is coming off of the bye, so it's not a quick turnaround for them. They've had a week and some change to prepare for this Pitt team. Now, my thought process is the last time Syracuse came off a bye, that was their loss to Stanford. So was this bye a good thing for Syracuse? Because they had a lot of momentum coming off of UNLV and NC State. So is the bye a good thing for Syracuse?
Well, it feels odd to say because Syracuse football has surprisingly been very successful on the road this year, something that we haven't gotten to talk about in years past. But one trend that has continued, like you mentioned, being inconsistent after bye weeks. This game is very reminiscent of last year against Virginia Tech when Syracuse also came off their bye week and they got thumped down in Blacksburg. Granted, I think that was a very talented Virginia Tech team comparative to what Syracuse had at the time. But going up against a top 20 opponent in Pittsburgh where you haven't won since 2001.
All odds are against Syracuse right now.
I don't think Syracuse has actually won on a Thursday ever since they played in a bowl game. I believe it was early 2010s. I think it was one of their old pinstripe bowls. That was the last time they actually won on a Thursday. So everything kind of goes against Syracuse in this case. And I also believe the last time the Orange beat a AP-ranked conference opponent, you'd have to go back to 2007. And that's on the road.
Yeah, but
on the road.
I fully believe if there was a team to do it and defy all odds, it would be this Fran Brown-led team. And no discredit to Pitt and what they've done. They're 6-0. However, and I'll just put this out there for all the naysayer fans out there that say Syracuse, there's no possible way Syracuse can win this game.
Pittsburgh had a Mickey Mouse schedule. They played nobody.
I mean, I'll give you this. 3 of Pitt's 4 games against Power 4 competitions have been settled by one score. One score determines.
That proves my point even more. You're playing lesser competition, and you're still playing these opponents super close.
And that's not me overlooking this team because I've seen what their quarterback done. I've seen what their dual threat running back Reed has done. That guy, I mean, let's just start there. Desmond Reed has 3 touchdowns running and 4 receiving touchdowns. Syracuse has to be all over that running back. Their quarterback, true freshman. When I look at quarterback to quarterback, running back to running back, wide receiver to wide receiver, Pitt and Syracuse actually match up pretty evenly against each other. This game is going to come down to the defense of both teams, and I think Pitt has the edge for their defensive play.
It's tough to say because Syracuse's defense has shown glimpses of glory.
Right.
They've also shown times where they've shown a lot of weakness.
Right.
And I think with Marlowe Wax still not in the fold, Fran Brown indicated this week it could be another week until we see Marlowe back with this team. It's really going to rely on guys like Justin Barron and Elijah Clark to lock up a guy like Desmond Reed, which I think is going to be Syracuse's biggest threat they have to worry about this week, undoubtedly.
100%. And that's why the bye week coming the week before Pitt concerns me just a little bit, because you mentioned Justin Barron, who had a huge game against NC State. So it's the momentum kind of dies a little bit. But on the flip side of the coin, they had a week to prepare for their toughest opponent of the year. I watched Fran Brown's presser, a little sprinkle that I'll throw in there for you that I liked. He's been texting with Coach Prime, and it's funny because a lot of people say that Fran Brown is copying Coach Prime. I don't know copying, but I definitely sense some similarities between Fran Brown and Coach Prime.
Okay, so it's funny that you brought up the texting, because since the last time we came on, I was talking to our producer Jordan. I got absolutely flamed on social media when I brought out the statement that I thought Fran texting these coaches and calling these coaches was not right to do. It was not right to do. And people did not like that comment.
We actually talked about this. People did not like 2 weeks ago when Max said he didn't like that Fran Brown was going to other coaches to maybe get some advice.
Which I thought was a pretty mild take. I didn't think that was crazy to say.
It was a mild take, but then again, first year as a head coach, and if you're getting advice, you might as well get it from Deion Sanders. Pretty.
Sure. But, I mean, Deion hasn't even been bowl eligible as a coach yet.
You don't want to have beef with Deion Sanders now. Trust me. You don't want the whole Colorado fan base coming for you.
Wouldn't you rather go to a guy like Kirby Smart?
No.
What? The guy who has lost like a total of 4 games in the past 3 years, you wouldn't rather go to him?
I'd rather have Fran Brown as my head coach, Max. I love what he's doing with this program.
I'm talking about reaching out.
Reaching out? I mean, Nick Saban. Why doesn't he just call up Nick Saban? If you want to go talk to someone, talk about the best coach of all time and Nick Saban.
Sworn enemies. He was at Georgia. He's at Bama. Well, they can't associate.
The beef is behind them now. But I'll tell you, the beef cannot be behind Pittsburgh and Syracuse. This is going to be their 80th matchup in the history of these two teams. A lot of blood there. Last season when they played, Syracuse won. We all know my thoughts and feelings about that game at Yankee Stadium when Garrett Trader did that backflip. If you don't know, that is the epitome of Syracuse football for me last year, and I just can't shake my anger away from that play, no matter how long ago it is in the past.
That was the Dan Villari game.
That was
awesome.
That was a Dan Villari game. And speaking of Dan Villari, he kind of came alive versus NC State. We didn't get to talk about NC State because we didn't have a show last week, but he kind of came alive. I like what they were doing with him. I watched Pitt's head coach Narduzzi. I watched his presser, and he gave so much credit to what Kyle McCord has done. He said he's a Sunday afternoon type of player. He's going to league, I have no doubt. He said, quote, "That will be the best quarterback to walk into our stadium and play us in a while." So in a game where you think maybe Pitt could undermine Syracuse, absolutely not. They're not undermining Syracuse and what Kyle McCord has done. But what I will tell you is every media outlet in the nation, across the country, is undermining what Kyle McCord has done, and I am so sick of it. And it is just because of the fact that he plays for Syracuse. Because if he was putting up these stats at Ohio State, he'd make every Heisman list. He'd be in the conversations. Why is no one talking about what Kyle McCord has done for this team?
It's tough to say, because if you look at the quarterback stats from all the NCAA, you're going to see the same 3 names up there a lot of the times. The names I think of in particular, you think of Cam Ward, you think of Kyle McCord, and probably Jackson Dart. I think he leads the nation in passing yards. Granted, I think he had an extra game in there somewhere.
Right.
But still, you see, I mean, any list with those three guys is a pretty good list to be on. And I think you're right. And I think part of that has to be with you're not in that, you're not in the SEC where all the college football news is dominated. Also, Miami has probably been in the, national media a lot more because they're number 6 in the nation. So, and Syracuse being unranked, still, having their fair share, losing to Stanford probably didn't help. They're undefeated. This is probably a lot different of a story what we're talking about. There's probably a lot different, there's probably a very different mindset going into this game. But no, I completely agree that the disrespect to Kyle McCord is simply unwarranted because he's consistently thrown over 300 passing yards every game. He's consistently thrown multiple touchdowns. And I'm ready to say it. He's going to do it against Pitt, whether they win or lose. I think he's throwing for 300 yards again.
I completely agree with you, and I think head coach Narduzzi would also say that because he was saying that every time he was watching film this week, it's like, how can Syracuse keep converting on third and mediums? It's because of Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord is second in all of FBS passing yards. That's ahead of Dart, ahead of Shedeur Sanders, ahead of Carson Beck. I get pretty enraged, and I'm sure it enrages Kyle McCord, and he's like, if no one's going to talk about me, I'm going to start giving you a reason to talk about me. And the thing that gets me so upset is you say, well, we're not in the SEC, no one's paying. He has done this in less games than all of those other players I just mentioned because our buys have come so early in the season. I'm just not understanding. I wish I had an answer for it. It's because I think the answer is because it's Syracuse, and Syracuse can't have a good football program.
Well, take a guy like Jaden Milroe, who was all over the Heisman list at the beginning of the year, especially when Alabama beat Georgia. He was going up to the top of that list. But now he's continued to be in the headlines despite having very, very bad performances. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he plays for such a big brand of football in Alabama. I think Syracuse is trying to build that brand with Fran Brown as the head coach and trying to, get guys like Kyle McCord, eventually hopefully bringing in some more faces as the years go on. But the unfortunate thing is the Oranges aren't at that big level brand of football quite yet.
Of course. And focusing back on this game, because we know what Kyle McCord has to do. You said it. He doesn't have to throw for over 300 yards, what we think he's going to.
Probably does, though.
Oh, you don't think this is going to be a run-heavy game? This is in the air, which I agree with you, because last year there was only 4 passing yards in that game.
What game has Syracuse played this year that has convinced you that it's going to be a run-heavy game?
But that's almost why I'm thinking that. I mean, the end of that UNLV game was kind of run heavy with LaQuint Allen. And I'd like to see LaQuint Allen use his legs more and be able to break.
Kyle McCord almost threw 2 picks at the end, too.
That is very true. And that is one thing that Syracuse, especially the O-line, has to be aware of because, again, the Pitt head coach talked about how much pressure they're going to bring on Kyle McCord because they know how special he is if he has a clean pocket presence. So if I'm the O-line, you have to know that there are blitzes coming, that they're coming to get Kyle McCord. So that has to be a worry for the Syracuse team.
I think the current line is Pitt by 6, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I have a feeling that Syracuse covers in that, whether they win or lose. I personally think this is going to be a shootout.
A shootout.
I think this is going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be offense versus offense. I think both defenses have a little bit of – I think both defenses have weaknesses that each team can expose. And if Desmond Reed gets going and they can really, put up numbers like Ohio did in the first game and Georgia Tech did in the second game, I think that Syracuse is, going to have to deal with a lot more pressure than they had in recent games. But I also see a world where Kyle McCord continues to do Kyle McCord things and continues to light up the scoreboard. And I could see this being, upwards of a 60, 70-point game by the end of things.
I'm in complete agreement with you. I think the Syracuse defense has to do a good job containing Desmond Reed, as we've talked about, because if he's not going to run it, he's going to catch it. And if he's not catching it, he's going to run it. But not only if you focus all your attention on him, you forget about Mumford, who also has 3 touchdowns. He's their number 1 wide receiver. So this Syracuse defense definitely has their hardest task, and it's how do you contain Desmond Reed while also focusing on Muntfield and Fran Brown pointed out in his presser that their tight ends are also very good, and that is something that Syracuse defense has struggled with in the past, is getting down tight ends.
It's been we've thrown out a lot of names. We've thrown out Dakota Mumfield. We have thrown out Desmond Reed. We've thrown out Justin Barrett, Elijah Clark. We've thrown out guys like Kyle McCord, Quinn Allen. We've literally probably said every name on the roster. So I think this kind of relays in pretty perfectly, because if Syracuse is going to come out on top against number 19 Pitt, who needs to really step up for Syracuse to ensure that they win? So your pick to click is.
So I'm going to change. Is click a verb? I'm not very good with grammar. I'm going to change it.
You're on the radio. I would hope you're at least somewhat able to speak.
I'm able to speak, but I don't know the word I'm looking for. But instead of pick to click, I'm going to change it to pick to keep on clicking.
Okay.
So coming off the bye, we didn't see anything last week, obviously. So there's no one that I see needs to improve from anything. My pick to keep on clicking, thank you very much, is Kyle McCord. We've talked about him. We've continued to talk about him. Kyle McCord cannot have a game, and we haven't seen it yet. He's not shown us anything for me to think there's a reason why he would not have a stellar performance. And that's exactly why he needs to continue clicking and doing what Kyle McCord has been doing.
Okay, I'll revise your statement a little, because I think I know what you were going for. You didn't want to say Kyle McCord was your pick to click because it seems basic, but it's also the right answer. No, but it's the right answer.
Yeah.
I think you're completely right. So if you get to bend the rules, that means I get to bend the rules a little, and that means I get 2 pick to clicks. And I said it a little.
You'll take one of Nico's. You're not really bending the rules.
You're right.
You're
Good thinking.
Voice for Nico.
Good thinking. All right. Well, Nico gets Elijah Clark, and I get Justin Barron. That's our pick to click, because, like I mentioned, I think Kyle McCord is going to do Kyle McCord things, but I think what a lot of this game relies on is how well the defense can play, how well they can contain Desmond Reed, and the two guys that are going to be heading sort of that charge is Justin Barron and Elijah Clark. Justin Barron had such a good game against NC State. I expect him to continue that because he has that veteran experience. Same with Elijah Clark. I expect them both to step up to the plate and really perform in the absence of guys like Marlowe Wax. But I feel like it's super essential that this week those two guys especially are clicking on all cylinders.
I agree with you.
All right, so Dylan's got Kyle McCord as her pick to click. I've got Justin Barron, and the imaginary Nico's not with us. He's got Elijah Clark. Those are our pick to clicks for Syracuse and Pitt this Thursday. We've hit a break here on Newhouse Afternoon, but when we come back, we're going from college football to pro football. Lots of stories.
Oh boy.
Dylan's probably going to want to bench every single quarterback in the NFL. We'll tell you about it when we come back. You're listening to Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN Radio Syracuse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we went a little long on that, but I think it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
Now we get to talk about what I've been looking forward to coming back on this show, because I've just been right for the past 2 weeks. There's been nothing that Aaron Rodgers has done to prove me wrong. And for that, I say thank you, Aaron Rodgers. It's the only time that I will thank you this season. But you have continued to prove me right in that you are old and you are washed and you need to go. And Jets fans agree with me, by the way. Will I just say this? Jets fans do not want Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback anymore.
Who do they want then? Jordan Travis at this point?
No.
With an ACL injury?
I think they're done with the season. Season's over. Season's canceled.
Yeah, well... They're
looking for the draft.
Okay, well, I mean, still, I would say that Rodgers is not the only factor that's gone into that.
No, but you know what? 100% not. Garrett Wilson overran so many routes.
You overran so many routes.
So many.
There's an inability to... They just don't run the ball to a guy like Breece Hall, who is so good.
Well, your whole offense can't be Breece Hall.
And they're not effective in the red zone either. So,
because you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback.
Okay, well,
and all he does is cuts his hand and he bleeds every game, and he throws himself on the ground and he bangs his helmet, and he's just become.
You mean he plays football? That just sounds like a football guy right there.
Yes, a football guy who's led this team to 2-5, and everyone should be happy about that because it's 2 more wins than he led the Jets to last season.
Exactly.
Exactly. I just can't wait for the Jets. They're going to follow in the Giants' footsteps, right? They're going to lose a lot of games, and the fans are going to say, throw the season to get someone better. They're not, because remember, Giants had the opportunity to draft Jaden Daniels, and they said, I see what Daniel Jones does when he collapses in the pocket and he can't throw downfield, and that's the quarterback I want for my team. They paid him a ridiculous salary that he did not deserve, and now they're paying the consequences of it.
Yeah, I think, that one they probably regret a little more.
And I know it's weird coming from someone who is from New York and from Long Island and should be a fan of these teams. And maybe if I was...
Well, you're a Packers fan.
Maybe if I was raised differently, I would have a more sympathy towards these teams. However, I just can't find it in me, too.
I guess that's me. I'm from Missouri. I don't like the Chiefs.
I hate the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the new Patriots. Everyone agrees with that.
Yeah, but I also kind of like... I like that a little bit because... I think it shuts Pats fans up, and I also think that...
It's true.
I mean, and I guess we can get a little bit into this, but, like, look at the Chiefs right now. They
suck.
They
suck, and they're undefeated.
They have nobody.
I don't get it.
It just furthermore proves that Mahomes... I think Mahomes is the GOAT already. I'm going to say it.
I think he has to at least just reach... the Super Bowl. I don't think it matters if he wins or loses the next Super Bowl. Obviously, if he wins, it secures him as the GOAT, but even if he reaches it and has a good performance in it, it's okay.
I just think Brady's always had the tools around him.
You could say the same thing about Patrick Mahomes.
With a washed Travis Kelce, with Kareem Hunt at running back.
Look, they're undefeated. You can't.
Because of him.
I don't know. I'll take us back.
Cool.
Come.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back to Newhouse Afternoon. I'm still Dylan Byer, still with Max Gifford.
Oh, dang it.
Now, if you watched our show 2 weeks ago, and if you've known who I am.
Or listened,
2 weeks ago, you know that I was born and raised a Packer fan, not through my own watching. And you know I despise Aaron Rodgers.
Which just makes no sense.
Which makes total sense in the world.
Because you should praise Aaron Rodgers.
I should not.
You brought your team a Super Bowl.
I should not. And it seems as though Jets fans are finally hearing me and feeling me and siding with me that Aaron Rodgers is a washed quarterback. He is old. He cannot come back from his injury he sustained last season. They lost once again, despite acquiring Devontae Adams. Who saw that coming? I don't know. One player does not make a difference. This Jets team sucks. Aaron Rodgers sucks, and I do not care how many times, how many different ways I have to say it. It's my deep hatred towards Aaron Rodgers, yes, but there's no denying that Aaron Rodgers is not the Aaron Rodgers that we've seen in the NFL for his entire career.
Do you want to keep monologuing? Because I don't
that felt really good to get it out. Thank you. I needed that.
Because I don't think there's anything I can say that you're going to agree with, especially if it's in defense.
Let's try.
Of this Jets team one bit.
I'm calm. I'm calmer.
So you think 100% of the blame belongs to Aaron Rodgers?
No, maybe 95.
95? What?
Maybe 95% of the blame.
Maybe
yes.
No.
Well, think about this. 2 weeks ago, last week, 2 weeks ago, it's let's put the blame on Robert Saleh. Of course it can't be Aaron Rodgers to the reason why we're 2-4. It has to be Robert Saleh. Fire Robert Saleh, which everyone agrees was not the right decision because this is not Robert Saleh's fault. This is number one, Hassan Reddick holding out. He was a crucial part of this Jets defense. Now you have Williams playing an edge rusher who's simply, that's not his position. That's not what he plays. The defense was so overhyped coming into the season. And besides Breece Hall in the backfield and Garrett Wilson, and before the Davante Adams trade came in, this team really doesn't have that much of a superstar. And if they're a big name, they're not playing cohesively. They were overhyped before coming into the season. A lot of this falls on the quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is a guy that leads your offense, and yes, has Garrett Wilson overrun routes 100%.
See, that's what I was
100%.
See, that's what I was going to say.
100%.
Here's the thing. Honestly, you can make the argument that Aaron Rodgers is the superstar of that team because guys like Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and no one else in the team has stepped up at all.
I wouldn't, and you say Aaron Rodgers has stepped up?
Okay, let's go back 2 weeks. Let's go back 2 weeks against the Bills because we were texting throughout that game because because here's the thing. Your status of is a quarterback good is if he wins games. That's it. Is if he just wins.
So, and then this was the question I posed, and I said, perfect segue, Max, thank you. And I told Max and Nico not to answer this question when I texted it because I wanted to bring it up here and now. Here is my question I will pitch to you, to our audience. Would you rather have a quarterback have a great game, but your team loses the game? Or would you rather have a quarterback have a horrible game, but you win the game?
Okay, well, you see...
That's my question. I will pose it to everyone. Because personally, I'd rather have a quarterback have an average, not good game, but my team still wins. Because guess what? No one is talking about teams that are winning in a bad light because they're winning, right? During the break, we're trying to talk about the Chiefs and how, the Chiefs aren't that good. They're 6-0. You can't say the Chiefs aren't good and don't have star power because they're undefeated. Just can't do it.
Okay, but also to just push back a little on that. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, and he's continually being the best.
Jets have Aaron Rodgers, MVP of the league for how many times? I'm just asking. I'm just asking this question.
No, because here's my pushback on that. Because you say, Aaron Rodgers' bad performance, nobody's making up for him. Nobody's making up for him. Because there's no one stepping up on the offense. The defense, like you said, overhyped going into the year, hasn't been effective in stopping these teams. And by the way, that game against the Bills was probably Rodgers' best game as a Jet. Like, that was flat out his best game as a Jet.
100%.
Greg Zuerlein missed 2 field goals.
100%.
He missed 2 field goals.
But this is where the debate
stems. If he makes those field goals, they win that game.
This is where the debate stems in from. That Aaron Rodgers had a great game, but the Jets still lost. The Jets still went 2-4 in that game. And after that game, Robert Saleh gets fired. So personally, I would rather my quarterback have not so great of a game, but my team still wins. Because if Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a great game, that's not saying that Breece Hall doesn't have a great game. Your defensive doesn't do great things. That's my view on it.
See, but can you tell me any game this year that the Jets have played that there's been a different aspect of the offense? Or I guess a better question is, can you tell me a game that Aaron Rodgers has lost the game for this team? Because to be completely honest, I think there's other aspects of the Jets game that are just so weak that they continually got exposed, even if Rodgers has also gotten exposed.
No, I 100% agree with you that there's not a game that I can look out and say Aaron Rodgers played horribly in this game and he is the sole reason why the Jets lost this game. But what I can say is that Aaron Rodgers is a part of that reason. So when you try to keep putting the blame on head coaches and you try to keep putting on the blame on the lack of the talent of wide receivers, so you bring Davante Adams in, and when you keep putting the blame on everything that is not your starting quarterback, you will start to realize, which I think people are, that Aaron Rodgers might not be that good this year. Maybe last year it was the answer. If he doesn't get injured, who knows where that Jets team goes. But this year, coming back from that injury, the worst injury he sustained in his career at his oldest age, obviously, I just don't know if Aaron Rodgers as a starting quarterback for the Jets can be sustainable, not just this season, but going forward. I know that it's time for the Jets to look at another quarterback in this upcoming draft.
I won't disagree with you that the Jets are and Aaron Rodgers is too old. Okay, he's an old quarterback. With that, skill will diminish over time. But what I will propose to you is the fact that the Jets will never blame Aaron Rodgers this season because it is his first season back, and everything up to this point has been built around him. If you blame your central piece,
it's a bad look. So of course they won't do it.
There's no other way to go forward. And you're too deep in the season right now, I think, to tank.
The business side of things, they will never put the blame on Aaron Rodgers. From someone who does not work for the Jets organization and is not completely unbiased, but unbiased to an extent.
I don't think the Jets would hire you. I gotta be completely honest.
I don't think I can get a job with the Jets anymore in my career. That's unfortunate, but I'm doing it to myself. But if I'm the Jets, I don't want to see myself go down a path that the Giants did, because we also talked about this during the break, that the Giants could have drafted Jaden Daniels and really turned this franchise around. Instead, they decide to give a ridiculous amount of money to Daniel Jones, who is such an average, I would even say below average quarterback. So if I'm the Jets, I can't look at another season of Aaron Rodgers or even signing Aaron Rodgers to another year, 2, 3, because I have to look towards my future now if I'm the Jets.
And I think that's a fair point. I think that's that's just the nature of the NFL. If one season doesn't work out, you have to figure out how to diagnose the problem and decide what is the best course of action going forward.
Right, but are the Jets willing to do that? Because Aaron Rodgers is calling all the shots right now. He wanted Lazard and Randall Cobb to come with him, brought him in. You wanted Devontae, and of course Devontae Adams wanted out of the Raiders, but he wanted Devontae Adams on his team, bring him in. There are speculations that he didn't have a good relationship with Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh gets fired. What is he going to ask for next? What is the next steps for this Jets team?
I unfortunately, I'm not Aaron Rodgers, so I can't answer that.
Thank God you're not Aaron Rodgers, honestly. Well,
I would love to be Aaron Rodgers. A 4-time MVP, that'd be awesome.
Maybe not today. Maybe a couple of years ago you would like to be Aaron Rodgers.
No, I still would like to be Aaron Rodgers.
I would still like to be Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Well, I'll tell you, a quarterback that plays in New York that I would like to be is Josh Allen. Because right now, there's really no one better than Josh Allen and this Bills team. What they've been able to do, they just keep steamrolling ahead. Thank God the Bills are in New York. At least one football team in New York is good. And honestly, you can even argue that the Jets and Giants aren't real New York teams. But the Buffalo Bills, I've heard that argument a lot before. They technically play not technically, they do play in New Jersey.
Yes, they play in New Jersey.
Yes. But
just like how the Sabres are the only team in New York. Actually, wait, no, sorry, the Rangers are in. Sorry, the Rangers are in.
And Long Island, New York Islanders.
Yeah.
Long Island's New York. Island's New York. Born and raised. But I will say that these Bills look good. They look serious.
But I don't see anything special about this Bills team.
I agree with you.
I'm just going to put it out there. Do you see Josh Allen winning the Super Bowl this year? No.
And I will only say that because I just don't see how right now anyone's beating the Lions.
Yeah, and I also don't see a world. I don't see a world where the Chiefs probably don't get back to the Super Bowl, because to say what you want about the talent that's around Patrick Mahomes right now, he's winning games and he's just continuing to beat opponents. And to be completely honest, I don't think they're daunted by Josh Allen and the Bills at this point.
No, and we talked about this. It could, because you said that you could call Patrick Mahomes the GOAT right now.
I could.
Mid-season.
Yep.
You could.
Yep.
How do you think that would go down with the rest of the NFL fans and people that just praise Tom Brady as the GOAT? Because, that he is the GOAT.
Yeah, as of right now. But I think that currently right now, if you really, really take a deep look, this is someone who has no NFL team. I have no bias anywhere. I honestly, I would actually say I go out of my way to really dislike the Chiefs at times because I'm from Missouri and those fans are completely obnoxious. But I think if you were to tell me that Patrick Mahomes is the greatest football player of all time, I would say, okay, I would agree with that. Because
mid-season, before you find out what happens at the end of this season, I don't think you could say that.
I've been saying this since last season, but I think it's even just more, emphasized this year because of the lack of talent he has around him. And the fact that you have Kareem Hunt as your leading running back and the wide receivers around him are I don't even know some of their names. Like, that's how bad it is. I don't know some of their names that are catching the balls from Patrick Mahomes. But it doesn't matter because he's throwing them to them perfect every single time, and they're continuing to win games. They really haven't had any close games minus that first week against the Ravens, it's felt like.
Yeah. So the Chiefs keep on rolling. The Bills keep on rolling. Unfortunately, a team that stopped their magical oh my God run was the New York Mets. When we come back, we'll recap the fantastic season of the New York Mets and, of course, preview what the MLB scriptwriters wanted all along, Yankees-Dodgers World Series. We'll be back right after this. Thank you.
I thought you were about to say the magical run of the Minnesota Vikings. I was like,
but that was pretty special.
I was like, we're talking about the Vikings?
So that was pretty special, to be fair, because once I learned that J.J. McCarthy was down, I was like,
see, that's the
Vikings are done.
See, that's the epitome of your quarterback doesn't have to play good, but your team,
could still win
you can still win.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I would rather that.
Yeah, that's the epitome of having a Sam Darnold type of character.
Right, and now people are looking at Sam Darnold, and they're like, that's a good quarterback. Sam Darnold, if you told me that Sam Darnold people would consider a good above-average quarterback this season, people would look at you like you had 3 heads 2 seasons ago.
That's fair. I think people would also say that if you said that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a below-average quarterback at any point, they'd probably also
if you told me that 6 years ago, I would have looked at you and I would have said, my Aaron Rodgers, a bad quarterback? Never.
I love the fact there was a point where you called him my Aaron Rodgers.
There was. I still have his jerseys, plural jerseys, and I don't know what to do with them. They're just sitting in my closet right now.
Do you have a Jordan Love jersey now?
I don't. I need to get that, though. I do have a cheesehead, though.
Okay, that's cool.
I do. I have a lot of Packer memorabilia. I have an Aaron Rodgers signed helmet. I don't know what to do with that one either.
I mean, if you need someone to give it to, I'll take it.
No, I'll keep it. It's a great keepsake of what once was, just not what is now.
I think it'd be like I think you're going to host some big talk radio show one day, and you're going to have it like in the background.
In the background.
Yeah. Just maybe, like use it as like motivation.
Maybe I'll meet him again. I'll be like, oh my God, can you sign again? He's going to be like, I heard you when you were at Syracuse.
No, Rodgers doesn't listen to the media.
No, he doesn't.
In fact, he said that everyone else needs to stop listening to the media. That's why his team is playing so bad. I truly think Aaron Rodgers could have a better career as a podcaster right now this season than as a quarterback. I'd listen. I'm so interested in his personality. Can you imagine a world where Aaron Rodgers became the host of Jeopardy?
He was pretty good as an intern. He's gonna have a great media. I don't think he's gonna go into broadcasting. I think he's gonna go into like podcasting, like something to do with his personality.
Honestly, he'll probably just work for McAfee.
Oof, I don't know what's in his future. I think he might go down the Tom Brady route of like the supplementing, but for like ashwagandha and stuff like that.
I don't know. It'd be interesting. Because I also think those are two very separate personalities with Brady and Rodgers. Because now you've got Brady, who's a half owner of it, who's part owner of a team, and has like specific rules about being an analyst.
I saw those rules. Like it's like, because what if he can't attend practices? I saw, but what if they have like a game he's doing and he has to do like all of that research before it, but he can't.
He can't go to practice.
It's really tough. I don't know. And I don't think bias is a problem because I don't.
But I would also say, like, to a point, it's Tom Brady. Like,
right.
I think he can probably gauge a football game pretty quick.
Yeah.
Probably without even having to do research.
Oh, 100%.
And that's half of being a color guy is just saying what happened in front of you.
Right. I don't think he's a personal fan. He just wants to make money.
Yeah.
He wants to invest in the Raiders.
Certainly one of the decisions of all time. I'll take it out.
Yeah, you got it. Do you want to save the ad until next?
Yeah, we can save it until the end.
100.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
We are back on Newhouse Afternoon. Dylan Beyer, Max Gifford. Dylan, it's a dark week in the world because there's no baseball.
There's no baseball.
Until Friday. It's really sad. I don't know what to do with myself these next 5 days. I know we talked about football a lot, but I do miss baseball, even though it's coming back on Friday.
I miss it, and I miss that. I want to get excited about it coming back, but it's not the Mets. The Mets season came
I was like,
to an end.
Your heart was broken on Sunday.
But so it's funny. It was half broken because if they took it to a game, you would have rather this team lose in a game 7. I think that makes it
really. You would have rather lost in game 7?
Yes, because at least they could have gotten the opportunity to tie it up, and then people could be like, wow, like these Mets, like there's just no quitting them. But I think everyone, even before coming into the game, they're like, ooh, they're in LA. It's almost the fact that it was a bullpen game for the Dodgers. Like, it was like finally something was on the Mets side, so the Mets were gonna blow it. The Mets were gonna lose it. It almost felt like that. My heart was only half broken because I think the Mets. No one's talking badly about the Mets. Usually going into every season and coming off of a season, it's the same old Mets. The Mets aren't going to do anything. And I think for the first time, people are like, oh, like forget Grimace and OMG and all of these funny memes.
The Rizzler was at the game too.
Right? Like forget all these things that people want to attribute the Mets' success to. The Mets are actually a very, very good team. Of course, Alonso is a huge question for this team in the offseason, and a couple other key players like Jesse Winker, I know a lot of fans want back. But I think a lot of players in the MLB who are looking for a new team have the Mets on their list, and that's the first time in a while. I think we're going to see some bigger names want to go play for the Mets.
So I have a take. You can correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm not a Mets fan, not a New York baseball fan, but I think the only way that Mets fans would have been disappointed with this playoffs is if they lost to the Yankees in the World Series. I think that's.
Yeah,
I
mean, I can't argue with that. I don't know if it's the only thing. I think number one, not even getting in the playoffs, that series against the Braves.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would have really taken a toll on us. But yes, and anytime you lose to the Yankees, especially if it was in the World Series, I probably wouldn't have come out of my room. My best friend is a Yankees fan. She's actually going home on Tuesday for 18 hours. I don't blame her. I would also go home to see a World Series. But yeah, but I'm not as upset because I said in a year that it shouldn't be the Mets year. It felt like it could be, but I think everyone agrees that the Yankees and Dodgers not deserve it more, but they should be there. Everyone thought they were going to be from the beginning.
On paper, they should be the two
Right.
teams in the World Series.
Right.
Nico Horney, our other co-host, not with us today. I know he's probably cheering somewhere. He's cheering with glory because he did predict that the Yankees and Dodgers would be in the World Series.
Yes.
Very lame predictions.
What was your prediction?
I said the Guardians were going to win, which wasn't terrible.
It was pretty bad.
No, it wasn't. They made to the championship series.
Yeah, but then they got demolished in the championship
They did not
series.
get demolished.
Pretty much. At least the Mets won a couple games.
They did. They won the one awesome walk-off. And then the last one was in extra innings.
Yeah, but
They did not get crushed. The person who got crushed was Emmanuel Clase. He played so bad. And honestly, I think that's I will say I never slander the broadcasters too much in this playoffs because I think every one of them has done fantastic. But I think Clase did so bad because I'm glad Clase did so bad because Brian Anderson said that he was the best closer in baseball, and I believe it's Ryan Helsley for my St. Louis Cardinals. But that's a separate topic to go into. But Clase was so terrible. The fact that they brought him in 3 games in a row and he just got shelled each of the 3 times didn't shock me one bit. Because he had been sort of really cold. And just during the playoffs as a whole, even against the Tigers, wasn't anything fantastic.
No, and that's almost a conversation that we had about Edwin Diaz.
Yeah.
Partially because he was being overused so much. But when I go back to look at this Mets series, you can't get shut out in 2 games of the NLCS, and that's what the Mets bats just went silent, which was a fear that everyone had for the playoffs, and for it to come in the last series before the World Series, it was kind of just like it was very frustrating. And what I cannot understand is why in Game 6 Jeff McNeil started over Iglesias. Made no sense to me. McNeil was out all playoffs with an injury, and Game 6, when you needed someone, and Iglesias has been a very reliable hitter for the Mets, why McNeil started over him. I couldn't understand that.
I think in a sport like baseball, you have to find ways to get a spark in some way, especially in October. Anything can kind of happen. So sort of, I guess, spelling some of your, I guess, regular faces in the lineup for a guy that has shown glimpses of, being good in the past, I think is potentially the mindset. Trying to change something up, because obviously something wasn't working for New York in that series at various points. Now, there were points where the offense was very good. There were points where the pitching was really good.
Yep.
But on the flip side, when it was bad, it was really bad, and the Dodgers took full advantage. But also, are you shocked at all?
No. I mean, you have Shohei Ohtani.
You have Shohei Ohtani. They have Cardinals legend Tommy Edman, who had like 11 RBIs in the playoffs.
Yep.
So, just another Cardinals legend doing great things. The fun fact for you is this will be the last thing I say about the St. Louis Cardinals. Did you know both the NLCS and ALCS MVPs have both agreed to trade terms with the Cardinals at one point?
Really? At one point?
At one point, because
so there's
forget,
almost.
Well, people forget that Giancarlo Stanton agreed to trade terms, or the Marlins agreed to trade terms for the Cardinals to get Giancarlo Stanton, but then Giancarlo Stanton.
I'm sympathizing with Max right now. I'm shaking my head because I know how much pain he's in as a Cardinals fan.
He used his no trade clause and said, "I'm not going to St. Louis."
It's okay, Max. Things will. Maybe things won't get better, but I will tell you that they will. So at least you can hold on to hope for your Cardinals.
Thanks.
It's okay. But looking towards this World Series.
So demeaning.
Yankees. I'm a realist. I'm sorry. It hurts people's feelings. Looking to the World Series, Yankees, Dodgers, it's what everyone predicted from the day baseball opened up on opening day. Who's going to win the World Series?
The Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to win the World Series.
I love that.
And I have to say, I am 100% confident.
In how many games?
Tough to say. I'd like to say 5, but because I'm going to be I'll be realistic.
Okay.
I'm very confident that I don't think the Yankees will perform. Because
and you don't have any bad blood between Yankees.
Not
this
at all.
is just
not at all. Dodgers, Yankees. I just think that the Dodgers are the better team. And so I'd like to say 5. I think it's probably going to be 6 or 7.
6.
In reality, it'll be 6 or 7. But I do think that the Dodgers offense is just too overwhelming for the Yankees, because I would also raise the argument that there really hasn't been too much consistency in that Yankees lineup, with the exception of Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially looking towards their starting pitching. Dodgers have better starting pitching than the Yankees.
I mean, the fact that they have Tommy Edman hitting cleanup right now, I think says enough about how good the offense is at this point, because Tommy Edman was a 9 hitter when he was in St. Louis, but because he's playing so well, he's up at the cleanup spot, and they just have so many names. I mean, every single time I look up, to be fair, I feel like Shohei's up every 3 batters. Yeah. Mookie's up every 3 batters.
Yep.
But that, I think, coupled with a really, really good pitching staff, I think, starting pitching, I think Yankees could have the edge. But in terms of bullpen, I think what the Dodgers showed over the Mets is that they could be more effective when you get into the late innings. Yankees have sometimes shown those weaknesses in late innings. They gave up those late home runs to the Guardians. So that's where I see maybe these games getting decided. I think the games are going to be close. I think the games are going to be close.
No blowouts or shutouts.
No, I don't see a world where that happens.
I agree.
I do think the Dodgers do squeak out a win. I do squeak out the wins each time, especially if they are close.
I think I don't think 5 games is going to decide it. I think 6 or 7 is where this series is going to go. These teams are they're 2 good teams, but to your point, they're going to highlight the offs of each of their respective teams very well. Like the Mets did with the Dodgers. With the Mets playing the Dodgers, sometimes when the Dodgers starting pitchers were off, the Mets took advantage of that. That's something that the Yankees can take advantage of with Soto, with Carlos Stanton, and obviously Judge. I agree that the Dodgers are going to win, but I'm not as confident as you are to say the Dodgers are, because the Yankees are a very, very good team and have been this whole season.
Do you think so? I think there's also the mindset that both squads, it's a win or season of disappointment year.
I don't know. It would be more of a disappointment if the Yankees lose than the Dodgers, because the Dodgers have Ohtani for a while. So people are already raising question marks about where Soto's going to end up at the end of the season.
That was the other point I was going to make. I know we don't have too much time left before we got to get to another break, but I think Mets fans have been saying that they can only, really make that next step and compete with teams like the Dodgers if they get a guy like Soto.
Right. So I think it would be more disappointing for the Yankees to lose, because they can lose more guys of their roster at the end of the season.
Let's not forget, Soto has already won a World Series. So
he has.
This would not be his first World Series with the Yankees, but obviously we'd like to get that. And then I think regardless of what happens after this series, he's getting $500, $600 million.
Yep, he's set.
He's probably set for life. Like I said, I'll say I'd like to be Juan Soto. I'd like to be Aaron Rodgers. Is there any athlete you'd like to be Dylan?
Simone Biles.
Yeah, that's probably a good one.
I mean, she has a little stunt named after her called the Biles. That's pretty cool.
I think you're like a foot taller than Simone Biles.
I definitely am a foot and a few inches taller than her.
All right, so we reminisced on which athletes we'd like to be, but we are up against one more break here on Newhouse Afternoon. We come back, we'll get just a quick preview of NBA opening night. This is Newhouse Afternoon on ESPN Radio Syracuse.
Don't miss the Kyle.
Sweet.
Yeah, she's the GOAT.
Yeah.
She's really good.
I'm trying to think of any athlete I'd actually just because I've obviously just said I like to be these athletes because they make money and they're good at what they do. An athlete I'd actually like to be.
And I tried my whole life to be a gymnast. Like when I was in elementary school, I think the farthest I got was like a round off. I never got to the back handspring stage.
I have a participation trophy from gymnastics.
Oh, participation.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It was a trophy. I'll take it.
I got a lot of participation trophies in soccer. I got a lot of I wasn't good at soccer.
I don't even think they gave me a participation trophy. I don't even think I was that good.
I was not a soccer kid. My parents tried to make me a soccer. I tried a lot of things.
I cried when I played soccer. I just cried on the field.
Too much running.
It's not even about the running.
Much.
I just didn't like soccer. It's not my sport.
I don't know. My sport was softball. I loved playing softball.
Softball?
I loved softball. And I became a field hockey goalie in high school, which was different.
I love field hockey. That's a great sport.
It is. Not a lot of people know about it.
I know. I've learned since I've been here, just kind of covering the team on campus.
Yeah.
They're a fun team.
Yeah.
They're fun. And it's a cool sport. And it's a quick sport.
It is. I had to work one of the field hockey games for the Q's crew because sports management now makes you do one of the games. And I was like, I kind of miss it.
Although I will say, some of the rules still don't make sense.
Like what?
Like a lot of how these corners are drawn and the fact that almost every other play is a corner, especially after an APC chance. So it's just like corner.
Yeah. It's just because there's so much that you can't do in field hockey. Like,
yes.
You can't get too close. You can't.
Exactly.
Your stick has to be in the perfect position if you're hitting another stick.
So while I broadcast, I simply just say at times like, and it's another corner. I don't need to.
You're like, I
don't need to explain anything more. The Dolphins are better than the Jets right now. That's crazy.
And that was another thing I wanted to talk about. That Tua's going to come back, which
thank goodness I need Tyreek to play. I need Tyreek on my fantasy
okay,
team.
I'm worried about his health. But he had like a media question day yesterday, and someone asked a very respectable question of, are you going to wear a Guardian cap? And he said, no. And everyone's like, why? And he's like, it's just a personal choice. That man should be wearing a Guardian cap for the rest of his life.
Yes.
I think it is stupid for him not to. It literally doesn't change the way you play. It's a cap that goes on your helmet. It does it look a little weird? Yeah, but for your overall health, and you've been hit how many times where you are literally paralyzed on the field, put it on your helmet, please and thank you. It's insane.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to say
there's no reason he's giving. He's like, it's your personal preference should be your life.
Yeah, the personal preference, staying alive.
I don't like what.
Not
what
having
are we,
brain damage.
What are we doing? I don't.
You want to read the sponsor up top?
Yeah.
You want to just make a quick NBA champion pick?
Yeah. Or we could just say who's winning tonight's game between Knicks and Celtics.
I'll make Nico's pick for NBA championship.
Jordan, do you have to be out by 55-20? Okay.
Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back. We are just wrapping up here. This hour of Newhouse Afternoon is powered by Drivers Village Cicero. Go to dvoffers.com for more info. Tonight is the start of the NBA season opening up. Knicks, Celtics. You have Timberwolves, Lakers. My pick, Knicks are going to win it all this year. Who's winning it all?
Give me the Denver Nuggets, and Nico, who's not here, he's picking the Sacramento Kings.
Well, that's all we have today for Newhouse Afternoon. We will see you in 2 weeks. Have a great afternoon.
Orange Nation.
Coach, Paulie brought up this